Hello, this is Adam Bernard with AutoPerspectives, and we are back for another news roundup. We're heading into the week with the J.D. Power Auto Forum, as well as the New York International Auto Show. So I will be back next week with news from those events and on LinkedIn as well. But in the meantime, let's talk about what's been going on in the industry for the past week or so. We will start with AMG. Now, as part of a Mercedes strategy that was announced several years ago, they did want to do more with the upper end of the portfolio, and that included investing more into G-Class and Maybach and AMG. This is AMG's now fourth dedicated entry. Up until recently, AMG was largely a trim level, a performance trim level off a mainstream Mercedes product. But over the past several years, they have started to spin off entries into AMG specific entries. So this is AMG's first standalone SUV. It will join the existing SL convertible, the GT Coupe, and the upcoming GT four-door coupe, which will be switching over to a fully electric platform. This vehicle, when it launches in 2027, will target the new Porsche Cayenne Electric and the upcoming BMW iX5, among other vehicles. And like the new four-door coupe, which is moving from a derivative of the CLS to the new AMG.EA platform, the new SUV is EV only. Among the innovations, it's expected to feature what Mercedes has called hyperfast charging at a rather astonishing rate of 850 kilowatts. That's even higher than what you can find in China these days. Of course, that would require a dedicated charger to hit those charge rates, but that means that charging the battery of this vehicle would be almost as fast, or perhaps just as fast, as filling up a gasoline-powered SUV. Now, the new four-door has yet to be completely revealed, but Mercedes has already shown us the screen-heavy interior, which will likely carry over to the SUV as well. Unfortunately, it's been criticized a bit for not having a lot in the way of physical controls. We'll see if perhaps there's a chance to tweak that before the SUV makes its formal debut. Like the four-door coupe, the electric SUV will use the new YASA axial flux high-performance motors, likely in a tri-motor configuration with perhaps as much as 1 megawatt or 1,000 kilowatts or 1,340 horsepower, which is even higher than you can get out of a Porsche Cayenne Electric, at least for the moment. As noted, it's expected to debut next year, and then this will be followed by a coupe variant. Mercedes is one of the brands participating in the whole SUV coupe movement, so just about every SUV they offers includes a coupe variant, and this new AMG GT SUV will be no exception. So stand by for more news. When we see the four-door coupe unveiled between now and the end of the year, that will give us a lot of clues as to some of the technical specs of the SUV as well. And meanwhile, at the other end of the portfolio, we have the A-Class. Now, I mentioned before the strategy to emphasize the upper end of the Mercedes portfolio. Part of that strategy also included at the time a reduction in the entry luxury portfolio from 7 entries to 4 entries. Mercedes specifically said they were going to concentrate 75% of their investments on the top end in core vehicles. And at the time, that meant the death of the A-Class. However, a recent decision in the past year or so to focus more on volume meant that the A-Class was brought back from the dead. And that also tied into the issue around affordability, which even affects luxury brands like Mercedes. Now, you might recall that the original A-Class had a rather unique proportion and a double floor design. That's the original A-Class there in the upper right of this image. That was designed to accommodate an electric powertrain, which actually never came to market with that first generation. Subsequent generations of the A-Class were much more conventional in their proportions. What we hear now is that the new model will still be a hatchback with a slightly raised driving position. It'll use both EV and ICE powertrains. What this means is that the current A-Class, which was supposed to be out of production by, well, just about now, will be extended 2 years to 2028, and that will give them time to bring a new A-Class to market. And this new A-Class will leverage the new MMA architecture, which currently underpins the CLA and the GLB. So that also gives us some clues in terms of the powertrain, battery, motors, and a mild hybrid option as well. There had been some speculation that the new A-Class might be a little more SUV-ish or MPV-ish. That no longer appears to be the case. According to Autocar sources within Mercedes, suggests that it will be more conventional in terms of its proportion, and that'll put it directly in competition with the upcoming Audi A2 e-tron, which we will see by the end of the year, and the next generation BMW 1 Series. And as you can see, it retains the traditional two-box shape. It does have the framed door glass, which sets it apart from the CLA, and a fairly conventional liftgate. And obviously, a lot of the interior components are expected to carry over from the CLA and the GLB as well. From here, we'll switch to a completely different part of the market, and that is commercial vehicles. Now, most of the players in the light commercial van market in Europe have three sizes of hardware. They usually have a small van, a medium van, and a large van. A few, like Mercedes, have only two sizes, medium and large. Ford has their Ford Pro commercial vehicle brand. And now that it's a separate business unit, everyone knows that Ford is making a lot of money on Ford Pro. They have actually had four vans for several years. The Transit Courier, the Transit Connect, the Transit Custom, and the plain old Transit. Apparently, that was deemed insufficient to lead in this market in Europe. So enter the Ford Transit City, the fifth van in Ford's van portfolio. It is a midsize van designed to slot between the VW-based Transit Connect and the really recently updated Transit Custom. But as a China-sourced product, courtesy of Ford's partner JMC and based on their touring van, the Transit City is a bit unique in its offering. The goal here is to offer essentially a mid-size footprint at a compact price. It's also coming only as an EV. Every other Ford van in Europe has internal combustion. Some also offer electric power. This will not offer any internal combustion power. And it'll only have a single front drive powertrain combination, a 56 kilowatt hour lithium iron phosphate battery, which is very cost effective, and a fairly modest 148 horsepower front-mounted motor. It'll also come in a limited portfolio of offerings. A short wheelbase low roof van, which we saw in the previous image, a long wheelbase high roof van that you see here, and a chassis cab. Now, coming out of China, and with that limited level of complexity, it actually runs about 40% cheaper than an E-Transit Custom in terms of price, although there will probably be some tariffs involved. But you do get a corresponding downgrade in performance. The estimated WLTP range is about 158 miles. It's about 25% less than an E-Transit Custom, and the 67 kilowatt DC fast charge rate is about half the speed of what the E-Transit will offer. On the flip side, though, you can equip this with up to 1,275 kilograms of payload. That exceeds anything that you can get out of a Transit Custom. So if you're looking for low price and the ability to carry a lot, the Transit City might be the vehicle for you. They're also claiming a 40% reduction in the total cost of ownership compared to a comparable midsize diesel-powered van. One of the secrets to getting the cost down is basically to minimize the complexity. And one way to do that is to offer literally no options. Everything that you see here is standard. There's no way to add any extra equipment. You can't change the wheels if you don't like those. You can't change the upholstery either. You do get a standard 12.3-inch touchscreen, manual air conditioning, a heated driver's seat, adaptive cruise control, wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and a rear view camera. So all that being said, it does sound somewhat limited, but that appears to be the point. This is not a be-all, do-all van, but it's focused only on last-mile deliveries. And Ford says 90% of the customer group drive less than 68 miles per day. This is a bit of an unexpected play. I don't think anyone really saw this coming, but we know that Maxus and Geely and BYD and other Chinese automakers are already making inroads into the commercial van segment in Europe. So now Ford gets to do that with an established brand as opposed to an unknown brand and leveraging their Chinese partners. So we'll see how it does when it officially hits the street a little later this year. And speaking of vans, we'll finish off with one that's new and old. This is the new, and I'll put that in quotes, ProMaster City. This is built in Turkey. And you might remember the ProMaster City was the version of the Fiat Doblò, which was a smaller van. This vehicle is significantly larger, to the tune of about 2 feet or so. It's 210 inches long. That's longer than a Chevy Tahoe. So it's definitely not a small van, but it is smaller than the Ram ProMaster. And it is the brand's new entry-level commercial van, positioned as a mid-size entry. Now, the previous model's base, the Fiat Doblò, is actually still in production, but Fiat Ram really didn't see a market for a smaller van here in North America. And so Stellantis chose their midsize van, which is sold as the Fiat Scudo, as the base. Now, Nissan used to offer the NV200. Ford had the Transit Connect. So it sounds like it was kind of a logical move. American business owners really weren't interested in something that small. So now they've got something that's midsize and more affordable. Now, the hardware here is not exactly brand new. It's about 10 years old. It was launched in 2016, updated in 2022, but compared to the current ProMaster, whose bones date back to 2006, it's practically fresh off the boat. Unfortunately, if you were looking for an electric van in this segment, you are out of luck. Even though there is a version of this van in Europe that is fully electric, that won't make it to the US. So what you get is a 1.6 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder that supports a fair amount of capability. Back in 2023, Stellantis launched Pro One, kind of their counterpart to Ford Pro, and it became clear that the company was looking to generate the same sort of cash flow that Ford does with its commercial operation. No other commercial brand in the US market currently fields an entry in this segment, so this gives Ram a bit of an edge. We'll see how they do, and we'll see if anyone decides to follow suit. That about wraps things up for this week in the news. Please visit us at AutoPerspectives.net to check out the blog. Look for me on LinkedIn, and if you like what you see and hear with this podcast, please subscribe and share. And I will see you back here in about 7 days or so. Thanks. So long.